Good morning. My name is Wajiko Nganga. I'm still your host for today. I hope you're keeping warm. This is a very cold weather. It's raining. It's cold. Yeah, I can see today I'm a bit dressed warm. So welcome to this webinar and our second series for guidance on the medical cover purchase. So maybe I'll start with a recap of what we did last week. So last week we did an introduction to health insurance. We also looked at why you need to purchase a health insurance cover, how it works. We explained how it works, and also we looked at the common product features to which we are going to continue the discussion today. We're going to go now into depth of the product features, mostly the inpatient covers and the outpatient covers and the things that you need to know. For clarity, this webinar is for somebody who has a medical cover or somebody who is planning to purchase a medical insurance. So probably you're working and you have a medical insurance through your employer, and there are things that probably you don't understand, or you have a family cover, and maybe there are things that probably you never understood when you purchased the medical insurance cover. So this webinar is specifically to help you understand the cover that you have and to ensure that you don't have surprises when you visit the hospital, or especially when someone is admitted. I really feel sad when somebody is in hospital and you're getting surprises on the bills not being paid. So today, we're going to look at the waiting periods, or what do we mean by waiting periods? And this mostly applies to people who are planning to purchase the medical insurance, or people who get late to renew their policies. You need to understand what are waiting periods. Sublimits, this applies across to all people who have medical insurance, whether private or even the public policy. There are sublimits that we have within those insurance policies. So I'll look into depth the inpatient benefits that you normally get when you purchase the policy, the outpatient benefits, the major exclusions that we have under the medical cover, and finally we're going to have a conclusion, basically just a look at what we have discussed. So let's look at the waiting periods. Now, waiting periods, this is the time, for example, you have purchased a medical cover and the time that you're supposed to start receiving the benefits. So the insurance tells you that there's a waiting period between the time that you have purchased your cover and the time that you can start receiving your medical benefits. Normally, if you're a new client, the first 30 days, we call it the cooling period. You cannot use the cover within the first 30 days of the cover, especially if you're a new client. So we call that the cooling period. Now, these waiting periods, they can be applied to various benefits, and so they're going to be applied basically on some illnesses. They can be applied on some procedures and also some medical treatments. And I have given examples there. We have something we call pre-existing conditions and chronic conditions. So pre-existing conditions, these are conditions that you have before you go on cover. For example, maybe you have a disease like cancer, you have kidney failure, you have high blood pressure, you have diabetes, such diseases. You have those diseases before you go on cover or before you purchase the policy. So those conditions that you have before you purchase the policy, some of them are pre-existing but not chronic, and some of them are pre-existing and chronic. So basically, there's a waiting period for those benefits. Now, we also have, apart from now the pre-existing and chronic conditions, we have something called newly diagnosed chronic conditions. Now, you have purchased a medical insurance and you're not aware that you have a chronic condition. You're not aware. You have never been treated for the same. It has never been diagnosed. But within the first 90 days, that is the first 3 months of purchasing a medical insurance, then you discover that you are diagnosed with a chronic condition. So we call that newly diagnosed conditions. So for these conditions, we have some companies in the market that are going to cover that under they're going to cover it under the pre-existing and chronic conditions. And some will give you a separate benefit specifically for newly diagnosed chronic conditions. So it's good to notice there's a difference between the pre-existing chronic conditions, and newly diagnosed chronic conditions. There are conditions now that are diagnosed within 90 days. Pregnancy and birth-related services, they also apply waiting periods. So as we go into depth, you'll see some companies will give 12 months. Most of them will give 1 year, but you also have companies in the market which give a waiting period of 10 months. Psychiatric conditions are also subject to waiting periods, so I'll come back to that. Now, there are cases whereby when you purchase a medical insurance, a company may waive the waiting periods. So for example, maybe you have purchased a policy and the company can be able to waive all those waiting periods for you. The 1 year waiting periods, 2 year waiting periods, 10 months. There are instances where the insurance company can waive that waiting period. At what point does the insurance company actually waive these periods? One, you are moving your policy from one insurance company to another insurance company, and there is no break between the renewal. That is, 30 days are not over before you change the policy. So for example, you are now insured under company A, but upon renewal, you want to change the insurance cover from company A to company B. So for the company B to be able to waive your waiting period, you have to submit a report we call a utilization report. You fill in the proposal form, and then it has to be done before 30 days expire. So if 30 days are expired, the policy becomes a new policy and all the waiting periods are going to apply again. Now, there are also instances where you have corporate policies when you're purchasing the cover as a corporate or a company. So in some instances, you can be able to negotiate the waiting periods based on how you discuss with the company. So it depends on how you have negotiated your cover. So in that case, you can be able to have a waiver on the waiting periods. Now let's come to sub-limits. This is very important, especially if you have a medical cover, whether existing or you're planning to purchase a medical insurance. It's very important for you to understand what are sub-limits, because these are the reasons sometimes you find somebody admitted in the hospital. You have a bill of, let's say, for example, 1 million in the hospital, and the hospital is telling you that we can only pay, the insurance company is telling you that we can only pay a limit of up to 400,000. And you get surprised that you have to look for the balance of 600,000. Why does that happen? It's because we have something called sub-limits. Now, sub-limits, these are, let me just lay it as this, that there are limits of indemnity on a claim amount, which is pre-decided by the insurance company. So basically, the insurance company is only obligated to pay your claim or your bill up to that level. So you cannot be able to get your payment of the bill above that limit. So usually you're going to get these sub-limits that are stated within the policy document. So once you have your policy document, please ensure that you go through your policy document and understand the sub-limits. They're usually stated in the policy document, or if you have purchased the policy through an agent, you're going to get a write-up of your medical cover. It is going to explain all the sub-limits that are within your policy. Excuse me for a moment. Now, the sub-limits, they can be annual or they can be limited to a single hospital visit. So being annual means that within that 1 year, you cannot spend more than that limit that you have been given. In other cases, it is limited to a single hospitalization limit. So for example, you have been admitted or you are visiting the hospital for a day or for a specific procedure. So it's only limited to that single visit. But in most cases, you're going to find that the limits are actually annual. So why do insurance companies put sub-limits in your medical cover? It's because you cannot spend the whole cover on one condition. For example, you have purchased a cover of 2 million. You cannot spend the whole 2 million on one condition. For example, let's say you have kidney failure. You cannot spend 2 million, the whole cover on 2 million. You cannot spend the whole amount on one condition, especially if we have the pre-existing or the chronic condition. So the insurance company is going to limit you for that specific condition, the amount that you can spend out of your overall cover, out of the 2 million cover, for example, there's a limit of how much you can spend on that specific condition. So even if it's an admission, you need to understand if you have a specific condition, you're going to be admitted in the hospital, you need to understand that what is your limit, what is the indemnity limit of the insurance company, what can they pay for you, especially if it's a pre-existing or chronic condition or newly diagnosed chronic condition. You need to read your policy, or if it is not in your policy document, ensure that you inquire from your insurance company to understand the limits that, the sub-limits that are going to apply to your policy. So as I mentioned, it can be imposed on a medical condition or treatment of certain diseases, the doctor's consultation fees, the hospital room limit. So for the doctor's consultation fees, you're going to find that in most cases, the insurance company will have negotiated their consultation fees with the doctors. So, for example, maybe it's a specialist, you're seeing a specialist, they charge between 3,000 to 5,000. So that consultation fees is already negotiated. So you cannot you cannot pay more than that. So if the doctor maybe charges you more than that, or you go to a doctor who is not in the panel and you're charged more than that, then the insurance company can only reimburse up to the limit. Hospital room limit, so I'll come to that as I explain the inpatient benefit, so I'll be able to explain that. So before we go to the inpatient cover, the other important terms that I need to explain to you that I think are important for you to understand. There's something called pre-authorization approval from the insurance company. So this is where you go to the hospital and they tell you, we have written to the insurance company, we are waiting for approval. So these are bills that require pre-authorization from the insurance company. So before the insurance company can be able to treat you, they are going to get a letter from the insurance company confirming that they're going to pay for you that bill. Mostly it is a written approval, it is not oral. So they're going to write to the insurance company and they're going to write back. The insurance company, once they approve, they're going to give a limit, they're going to decline. They normally respond to the hospital. So if it is declined, you have to pay cash. If it is approved below for example, if the hospital is charging for a certain procedure or maybe a lab test, and the cost probably is high, and let's say maybe 70,000, the insurance company maybe gives an approval of 50,000, that means you have to pay the balance. So normally this applies to all admissions, scheduled admissions. That is, if it is not an emergency, whereby you have a scheduled admission in the hospital. In this case, you have to seek pre-authorization from the insurance company. Scheduled daycare surgery. So this is whereby you're just going for a surgery within the hospital. Within 24 hours, you're out. So we call them daycare surgery. It's within the inpatient, and it has to have pre-authorization from the insurance company. MRI, CT scans, PET scans, all of these have to get pre-authorization. Sometimes you're going to go to the lab and you have to wait for authorization from the insurance company. So you're kept there waiting for the authorization for some lab test treatment, some drugs, some vaccination, out of the country, inpatient treatment, physiotherapy sessions, all that they have to get pre-authorization from the insurance company. This means you cannot just walk in and get that service. It has to be authorized by the insurance company. Then you have post-hospitalization care. These are medical expenses that are incurred immediately after the patient or the insured has been discharged from the hospital. So you have been admitted, for example, let's say for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you have been discharged, but you still need post-hospitalization care. Probably you need a nurse, all that. All that has to be, first of all, this has to be pre-authorized also, but there is that. So this is what we mean by post-hospitalization care. You have been admitted, you have been discharged, but you still need some care from the medical team. So that is normally also offered. However, this must be related to the condition to which you were admitted, not something different. Copay, I had mentioned in the first series. This is whereby you cost share with the insurance company, and mostly this happens on outpatient, whereby you go to some specific hospitals, you have to contribute for visiting that hospital. So this normally does not reduce your sum insured. It's a co-payment. For example, if you visit the hospital, you're going to find sometimes you're told there's a co-payment of 1,000, there's a co-payment of 2,000. So it depends on where you have gone to the hospital. So once you get the panel of hospitals from the insurance company, they are normally going to write. They're going to write the hospitals which attract a copay. Some hospitals will not attract a copay, so it is also important for you to understand whether your policy has a copay, so that when you go to that hospital, you know clearly you're going to contribute some amount when you get to that hospital. Bed limit. Now, when you go to the hospital and you are admitted, hospitals will have different rooms with different charges. So we have, for example, the general rooms, and we also have these other private rooms, whereby the cost is completely different. Now, if your insurance limit is for a general ward, and you're admitted to a private ward, you prefer to go to a private ward, the insurance company is going to pay only up to the limit of the general ward. For example, let's say your cover has a limit of a bed limit of 12,000, and you have chosen to be admitted in a room of 24,000. That means the insurance company is going to cater for 12,000 per day, and you're going to cater for the balance. So also when you're going to get a bed or you're being admitted, please always understand, or for now, if you have a medical cover, please understand what is your bed limit, such that when you're going to the hospital to get admitted, then you know clearly, this is my limit, this is how much the insurance company is going to pay for me, and this is how much I'm going to pay for myself if you choose to get a room that is higher than the, that has a higher limit than the insurance company. So now let's look at the inpatient benefits. Now, for the inpatient benefits, definitely they're going to cover the medical treatment and services that are going to be provided to the insured, that is the person who has taken up the policy, or the beneficiaries within that policy, when they are admitted in the hospital as a patient. So you're in the hospital, you're admitted as a patient, not as a person who is taking care of another person. You're admitted as a patient, so that's the only time that you can be able to receive the inpatient benefits. And of course, this covers the hospital accommodation, just as I've mentioned, the hospital, the bed charges, nursing care, diagnostic lab, physicians or surgeons, you have anesthetics, physiotherapy fees, operating charges, ICU or HDU, specialist consultation or visits, the drugs, if you need any dressings, medication, MRI, CT scans, dental, optical, among other services that you may require medically when you are admitted in the hospital. Of course, it is going to cover your illness or ailments, including but not limited to the pre-existing or newly diagnosed chronic conditions, cancer, psychiatric treatment, last expense, maternity, accidents, among other ailments, including the occupational or speech therapy. So these are just examples, but in most cases, most of the ailments are going to be covered within the inpatient cover unless excluded in the policy. We have something we call lodger fees. These are bills that are paid for accompanying parents or guardians to minors. So you also need to understand, if you have a minor, at what age are you allowed to accompany the child into the hospital? This one, in the policy, you're going to find it's called lodger fees. So if you don't understand what a lodger fees is, what we call lodger fees. So mostly the insurance companies, they're going to give this fees based on the age of the child. So we're going to have some companies limit up to 10 years children, or children up to 12 years. So it depends on the cover that you have purchased. So if you have minors, it is important to understand at what point or does the insurance company cover for the accompanying parent or guardian to the child who is admitted in the hospital. Now, the inpatient also covers the daycare treatment. I had explained the daycare. This is whereby you are supposed to go a treatment or procedure, which is going to be taken either under general anesthesia or local anesthesia within 24 hours. Pre-hospitalization diagnostic services is whereby you have gone to the hospital. You're not very sure whether you're going to be admitted, but after you have gone to outpatient, maybe you have gone for lab tests, you have gone for MRIs, you have done any scans or any procedures that you have done to the hospital before admission. So all those costs, if you end up being admitted, those costs are going to be deducted under the inpatient cover in case you end up being admitted. This is what we call the pre-hospitalization diagnostic services. Then I have talked about the post-hospitalization care, which is subject to pre-authorization. Now, we also have, under most policies, you're going to find road and air evacuation. This is whereby you can get the services of an ambulance, or if you're in an area whereby you cannot be, either you need emergency and you have to be lifted by air to a hospital. This is covered by the insurance company. However, when you get this service, it must be leading to an admission, and in most cases, also it falls under pre-authorization. So you have to seek pre-authorization from the insurance company before you can call an ambulance, or before you can call maybe a chopper or an aircraft to transport you from where you are to the hospital. So these are subject to pre-authorization. Now, we also have overseas treatment. This is whereby you want to go under a certain procedure or seek maybe treatment out of the country. So in most cases, this is going to be authorized if the treatment is not locally available, or the cost of treatment for that ailment is less compared to the cost locally. In that case, you're going to get pre-authorization from the insurance company. So you cannot, for example, people who are going to India, you cannot just wake up and decide that you're going to India, you go and get treatment and expect the insurance company to pay. No, you have to get pre-authorization from the insurance company for you to get the approval for overseas treatment. So in most cases, they are going to cover all the costs, including the air tickets, the hospitalization, everything that the patient needs in the hospital outside the country. And in some cases, you're going to find that they also cover for the accompanying member, but you need to get authorization for the same as well. In most cases, they cover, but it is not automatic. So that's why I put there, it is not covered unless it is authorized. So I put there, this is a benefit that is subject to pre-authorization from the insurance company. Now, this is very different from when you are going on holiday. For example, you're traveling maybe to the US, to the UK, Europe, Schengen countries, and you're going purely on holiday. You're not going out for treatment. You're just going for holiday, and you're not sick. And God forbid, when you're out there, you get sick. So this treatment is going to be on reimbursement. So maybe let's take an example. You have traveled to the US and you are not sick. You're just there on holiday and you get sick. So what you're going to do is that you're going to spend your own money. So since, of course, you may understand that the insurance company has no contract with the hospitals maybe in a country like maybe US or any other country. So you're going to go and seek the medical treatment at your own cost. You use your own money. But when you go to the hospital, ensure you collect all your documents, and including the claim form. So always carry a claim form with you for the specific company where you are insured. So if you have insured with company A, ensure at least either you have it on email and you have communicated to them that you're traveling for this specific period to this country. And when you get sick, probably they're going to send you a claim form. So the claim form is supposed to be signed by the attending doctor. If you have gone for any lab test, ensure you get a copy of those lab requests and also the results. You attach all those documents for you to be able to get the reimbursement. If you don't have those documents, you're not going to get a reimbursement from the insurance company. So if you're traveling out of the country, they normally going to cover the between 6 to 8 weeks. So also again, here it also depends with the insurance company, and it is normally specified within your policy document that if you are traveling out of the country, we are going to cover you for up to either 6 weeks, or you're going to cover you up to 8 weeks. It depends with the insurance company where you're purchasing your medical cover. So understand, if you are a frequent traveler or you're traveling out of the country and you don't know what can happen when you're out there, ensure you understand your policy document or your medical cover. When you go out of the country, at what point am I going to be covered? So this is also different from the travel insurance. So if you have purchased the travel insurance and has the medical benefit, it is also different. So it is not, you cannot claim twice. For example, you cannot claim from the travel insurance and also claim from your medical insurance. You cannot have a double reimbursement. You can only claim from one insurance company. So if you have a travel cover and you want to cover your medical bills under the travel insurance, well and good, or you can cover them under your medical cover. So it depends on which cover that you have. So if you're traveling and you don't have a medical cover, at least always ensure you have a travel insurance. So maybe at some point I'll bring the discussion on the travel insurance and what it covers and why you need to purchase a travel insurance when you're traveling out of the country. Now let's come to this slide that is so important. Please take time to look at this slide. it is very important for you to understand. I will take you into details of what happens. So this one, I'm going to talk about, we have discussed what are the waiting periods, and we have discussed about what are sublimits. I have done examples here. So the examples that I have done here are not standard in the market. They are just examples. So when you purchase your medical insurance, look at the benefits I have put aside there and confirm what you have under the policy that you have purchased or the existing policy, including if you are employed. Please look at your cover and understand these sublimits. So the first benefit I've looked at is the bed capacity. I have discussed this. So for example, if you are, the first example they have given is a cover of 1 million and a person who has a cover of 5 million. So probably a person with 1 million can get a standard private room of 14,000 or maybe a general ward. You get somebody with a 5 million cover, maybe an en-suite private room with 20,000, a limit of, these are just examples. So you need to understand your cover. I'm just putting here for you to understand your policy. You need to know, if I am admitted in the hospital today, what is my bed limit? Is it 14,000? Is it 20? Is it 10? Is it 24,000? Is it 25? So it depends on the cover that you have purchased. So something important here to mention is that the cover here for the bed is going to be gross of the social health insurance rebate. So you need to have your social health cover. So if your bed limit is 14,000, of course you understand that the social health insurance is going to cover part of that bed limit. So that is going to be covered by SHA. In case you don't have SHA, please remember you're the one to cover that cost. If you have not registered for SHA, you're going to cover for that cost or the rebate that ought to have been covered by the SHA policy. Now, if you when you're filling in the proposal form, you have declared pre-existing conditions, maybe any conditions that you may have, HIV and AIDS and related conditions, or any other chronic conditions that you may have before picking up the policy. Those pre-existing conditions will have a waiting period of 1 year if you are a new entrant. If you're buying the policy for the first time, it is going to attract a waiting period of 1 year. So do not purchase a policy expecting to get treatment for a pre-existing condition within the first 1 year, or the chronic conditions within the first 1 year. No, they're going to be waiting periods. So you need to understand your waiting period. Sometimes you're going to get 6 months, but in most cases, just put an example there, mostly you're going to get a 1 year waiting period, meaning that for those conditions, you're going to benefit in the second year of the policy. At the same time, they're also going to be subjected to sublimits. As I mentioned earlier, you cannot spend a whole 1 million cover on one condition. So for example, I put there, a person with a cover of 1 million can be given a sublimit of 300,000. A person with a 5 million cover can be given a sublimit of 1 million. So what does that mean? It means that you cannot spend 1 million on one condition or 5 million on one condition, but you have been given a sublimit here of, let me just get a pen here. So, sorry. Yeah, so here you have the cover of 1 million. The limit you have been given here is this 300,000. So this means if you have a bill of maybe like 1 million, the insurance company is only going to pay 300,000 and you're expected to cover the balance of 700,000 from your pocket. At the same time, a person with a cover of this 5 million here, and they have a sub limit of 1 million. If you go to the hospital, you have a bill of 1.5 million. The insurance company is going to cover up to 1 million, and you're expected to cover the balance. However, if the bills fall below the limits, then it's going to be covered in full. But you need to understand your sub-limits under the pre-existing or declared conditions. Organ transplant attracts a waiting period mostly of 2 years. So again, these are examples. So the limits here, sub-limits are within the chronic limit. So if you see something written within the chronic limit, it means this limit above here of 300,000 or in the case of 5 million, it's a limit of the 300. Anything written within the chronic limit, then you check what is your chronic limit. Newly diagnosed chronic condition, as I mentioned earlier, so there are companies which are going to give you a 1 year waiting period, and others are going to give you a 3 months waiting period. That's within 90 days. After 90 days, they can cover. And in some cases, you get some companies are going to put the newly diagnosed chronic conditions with a 1 year waiting period. So, so for the companies that give a separate benefit, they're going to give it a higher benefit than the chronic. So if you compare here, for example, this one has 300,000. You see that for the newly diagnosed, probably they have given you a higher limit of 400,000. And for the cover of 5 million, you notice that the declared one are 1 million, sorry. But the ones which are newly diagnosed, they have been given a higher limit of 2 million. But this applies only in the first 1 year. In the second year, it falls now to the 300,000 and 1 million. So the newly diagnosed condition, these higher limits only apply in the first 1 year. The second year, it falls back to the usual limits of the 300 and 1 million. So the fact that they pay 400,000 probably in the first 1 year does not mean next year they're going to pay the same. When you renew the policy, now it falls under the pre-existing chronic conditions. So in other cases, you're going to find that some companies in the market, they're not going to give you a separate limit for the newly diagnosed conditions. They're going to be put under the pre-existing. They're going to be bundled here. So you're going to find that declared pre-existing condition stroke newly diagnosed chronic condition. So it depends on where you're buying your cover. So those are some of the things that you need to check when you're purchasing your medical insurance. Cancer, in most cases, is going to have a waiting period. So in some companies, they're going to give a 1 year waiting period. In other companies, you have 2 year waiting period. So if you have a 1 year waiting period, it means you can only get the benefit of treatment for cancer in the second year of your cover. When you renew the second year is when you're going to get the benefits for treatment of cancer. If you have a 2 year waiting period, it means that you can only get the benefit of treatment for cancer in the third year of the policy. So you're going to wait for 2 years, and you're going to get the benefit in the third year of your medical cover. So you renew twice, so you get the benefit in the third year of your policy. So this is again within the chronic limit, means that you come here and check your chronic limit here. Congenital conditions, these are conditions people are born with or children are born with. So again, if you are purchasing the cover for the first time, it's going to attract a 1 year waiting period, and the limits are going to be put within. Mostly are going to get it, if it is not stated, it is written within a chronic limit. So you have the neonatal or premature babies or conditions. So mostly this will not have no waiting period. In some cases, you're going to find that they're going to be put under the maternity waiting period of 1 year or 10 months. So again, it depends on where you're purchasing the policy, and they're going to have their own limits here. Psychiatric treatments, they're going to have a 1 year waiting period with a limit here. So you're going to be given the limit for psychiatry. So it depends again on the policy, the limit that you have purchased. So of course, the person who have purchased higher limit, they're going to have a higher limit here, a higher sublimit. So it depends on what cover you have purchased. Maternity and related complications. And in most cases, you're going to find that they're going to cover normal delivery and the fast emergency cesarean. So if the cover specifies that it is only the first emergency cesarean, it means that if you have a second child with emergency cesarean, it's not going to be covered by the insurance company. So if they have specifically specified it is only the first emergency CS that is going to be covered, then it means that after that, it is not going to be covered by the insurance company. So again, the waiting periods here differ in the market. So you get some companies giving you a 10 months waiting period. In other cases, you're going to get a 1 year waiting period. So again, the waiting periods, the limits, sublimits apply. So you cannot spend a whole 1 million cover on maternity. So they're going to give you a sublimit. Again, 5 million, you cannot spend a whole 5 million on maternity. They're going to give you a sublimit. What do this sublimit mean in maternity? It means if you are admitted, for example, for delivery, and you go for a CS, and your limit is 150,000, and you go to a hospital whereby they're going to charge you 300,000 for that delivery. Please note you're going to pay the difference. The insurance company is going to pay up to the sublimit. So again, for maternity conditions, please choose your hospital wisely, because if you choose a hospital that is too expensive and your medical cover cannot fully cover in case of emergencies, your medical cover cannot cover anything extra, then it means, for example, you're planning to go for a normal delivery. And clearly, you know, maybe within that hospital, you have done your homework, and a normal delivery cannot go beyond 150. But things change when you're in the hospital and you find yourself, you are expecting a normal delivery and you find yourself in a CS. So it's always good to have those options. Compare. If, for example, I go to the hospital for delivery and the normal delivery does not happen and I end up in the CS, will my insurance cover for that CS? Is my limit enough to cover for that CS? If it is not enough, please ensure you go to a hospital whereby that money is going to be enough. Otherwise, you have to pay out of pocket for the balance that is going to be remaining. With a continuation of that, inpatient non-accidental, this is very important, inpatient non-accidental optical treatment. Non-accidental, it is not an accident. This is something to do with your eyes. You have been admitted because of your eyes, and it is not an accident. So this is non-accidental. You have a waiting period of 1 year. So you have an eye surgery that is planned. You have purchased the cover today. You are going to wait for 1 year to have that surgery. And even after waiting for that 1 year, there are sub-limits that are going to apply within that policy. So you have here, for example, here 100,000, 100,000 for the family cover. So again, these are just examples, but you need to understand, once you take your policy, you need to understand what actually applies to your cover. That is the same with inpatient non-accidental dental treatment. So you need something to do with, maybe you need a reconstructive surgery for your teeth, and it is not an accident. You have to wait for 1 year, and even after waiting for that 1 year, meaning that you can only get that treatment in the second year of your policy, there is a sub-limit that is going to apply. You cannot use the whole amount on dental. There is a sub-limit that is going to apply. Now, we have something called home nursing care. This is whereby you have been discharged from the hospital and you need nursing care at home. So post now the discharge. So you need to know the number of days that the home nursing care is going to be paid for by the insurance company. So you have a nurse at home who is taking care of you. You need to understand how many days the insurance company is going to pay for you. So mostly you're going to find days between 35 to 45 days post-discharge. So you need to know the specific period. So if that medical team stays beyond that, beyond the prescribed period by the insurance company, then in that case, you have to pay the medical team from your pocket. So it is very important. As much as that benefit is there, please understand how many days that medical practitioner is supposed to be attending you to you at home, and the insurance company is going to cover the cost. Otherwise, beyond the limit, it is going to be paid from your pocket. We have the last expense. This is whereby somebody is admitted in the hospital, or maybe they were sick and they have passed on. So the insurance companies are going to have a benefit for last expense. So depending on the cover that you have purchased, I put an example here. For example, a cover of 1 million, you can get a last expense cover of 75,000, and a 5 million cover maybe 100,000. In most cases, if you are the insured, your kin can report that, or it is one of your beneficiaries, you report that to the insurance company within 24 hours to allow them to process the last expense benefit. So ensure you have notified the insurance company within the minimum time that you can to inform them. Now, we also have other benefits called annual medical checkup. So the annual medical checkup, mostly this is under the outpatient. So sometimes the insurance company can cover the member only. For example, if it is me, Wanjiko, they can only cover me. And in some cases, they cover the member plus spouse. That means Wanjiko and the spouse. So it depends on, again, where you have purchased your cover, who is covered for the annual medical checkup. So you also need to understand who is covered for the annual medical checkup. In most cases, you're going to find a limit of between 10,000 to 15,000 per year for the annual medical checkup. Now let's look at the outpatient benefits. So basically for the outpatient benefits, is the same, almost the same benefits, the consultation fees, general ailments. If you have pre-existing or new diagnosed conditions, cancer, where you don't require admission, psychiatric treatment, last expense, prenatal or post-care, KP baby-friendly vaccines. So in most cases, insurance companies are going to cover baby-friendly vaccines, but there are some vaccines for children which are not covered by the insurance company. So you also need to understand, if you have a small child who needs vaccinations, you need to understand which vaccines are not covered by the insurance company, so that you don't end up in the hospital, you have taken up or you have ordered for a vaccine, expecting the insurance company to pay, and probably that vaccine is not covered by the insurance company. So you always need to understand which vaccines are covered by the insurance company. Specialist outpatient services. So mostly you're going to get an approved list of the people who can attend to you, or the medical providers. So use a specialist within the approved panel of the insurance company. Diagnostic services are covered within the outpatient. You're going for X-ray, you're going to the lab, that is pathology, MRI, the CT scans, the PET scans for cancer. So all those are covered under the diagnostic services under the outpatient. But again, there are limits, there are sub-limits, as I have explained earlier. So if, for example, you're going for a PET scan, and for example, a hospital is charging, for example, 75,000 for the PET scan, and the insurance company has only authorized for maybe like 40,000. That means you have to top up the difference. So again, it depends with your cover limit. Can your outpatient cover for that cost? So again, you need to check again when you're going to the hospital. Prescription drugs are of course covered within the outpatient, the dressings, physiotherapy on referral, and as mentioned, the annual medical checkup for the main member and spouse or the member only, and that one has a sub-limit of between 10,000 to 15,000. Optical checkup, if you have the optical checkup, is covered for the eyes, but for the people who put on glasses, you'll find that most insurance companies are going to limit frames, the purchase of the frames for 2 years. So in every 2 years, you can only purchase those frames once. So you cannot purchase frames every year. So those frames, when you purchase them, you're going to use them for 2 years. Again, they have a sub-limit. So you're going to find maybe the insurance company has given frames a limit of 15,000, 20,000. So if you choose frames which are above the limit that is given, then you have to cover that cost from your pocket. Dental covers, again, this includes now the doctor's fees, the hospital operating theater cost, tooth extractions, fillings, root canal, X-rays, polishing, scaling, all that, as long as they have been approved by the authorized doctor to attend to you. Now, something to note here, the maternity benefit, the last expense benefit, personal accident cover, the dental and optical limit. In some cases, when you're purchasing the policy, they can be within the outpatient limit or the inpatient limit, it depends. At the same time, they can be sold at separate benefits, meaning that when we are calculating your premium, I'm going to calculate extra premium for those benefits. So if you choose to, for example, to have a maternity cover, I'll charge you for the benefit for maternity. But if it is it is bundled together with the inpatient or the outpatient cover, then you cannot separate that benefit. The same thing with personal accident, dental and optical. Sometimes it is bundled within the inpatient cover or the outpatient cover, and sometimes it is charged separately. So if it is charged separately, then that means it is going to attract an additional premium. Also, in some cases, you find that the premiums can be charged per person, especially outpatient, or per family. So if it is charged per person, it means that if you are I explained the M+2 or M+3 in the last session. So if you have, for example, 3 in the family, you're going to be charged each person separately for the outpatient benefit. Or sometimes you have the shared benefit where you have the per family charge. So it is charged as per family and you share the benefit. Meaning that if you have purchased a 150,000 cover, then you are sharing the 150,000 cover within the family. Or probably you have purchased as a per person cover, meaning that every person has that benefit of 150. So it depends on where you're buying your cover. It is important to understand, am I buying a policy for outpatient per person, or it is going to be a shared benefit per family? So that is very important to understand, so that you don't get a shock where your cover probably is, like, for example, a shared benefit of 100,000 and you are 4 of you, and you have gone to the hospital, and sometimes you're even going to the high-end hospital. So of course that cover is going to be depleted within a very short time. So understand whether your cover out for outpatient is per person or it is per family. In other cases, you're going to find that children are charged separate from their parents. So if they are charged separately, then that is going to be attracting a separate premium for the children. Mostly it's mostly are going to be charged lower premium than the parents, or in some cases they are charged as per family. So M+2, M+3, like that. So it depends on where you're purchasing the policy and what kind of product you are purchasing. So it is very important to understand these terms, so that when you go to purchase a medical cover, you are an informed person. Major exclusions. So these are not the only exclusions for the medical cover. There are many. So they are there. So you need to check your policy document, what kind of exclusions are in my policy document. However, here I've just put the major ones. Claims incurred or costs incurred before the inception of the cover, during the waiting period, and after the expiry of the policy. So before inception means you have not purchased the cover, you don't have a medical cover, you want to go and purchase the cover, and probably there's somebody in hospital. So of course, when you purchase that cover, the cover is not going to cover that cost for somebody who has incurred medical cost before the inception of the cover. During waiting period, as I've explained, all the waiting periods. So if the ailment occurs during the waiting period, that is not going to be covered, or anything that is subjected to waiting period is not going to be covered by the insurance company. And after expiry, and this expiry, I like insisting on it. Your cover has expired. Within 30 days, please ensure you have renewed your medical cover. Otherwise, all the waiting periods are going to apply afresh. Okay? So within 30 days, look for that money, please pay. And in most cases, you're going to find that if you don't renew within those 30 days, all the waiting periods are going to apply afresh. Expenses that can be reimbursed from other insurance companies, as I mentioned, you cannot claim twice. So probably you're employed and there are some costs that you're going to recover from WIBA. There are some costs that you can recover from the social health insurance, and there are some costs that you can cover from your group personal accident cover. So those costs, as long as you have recovered that from these other insurances, they are not going to be paid by the medical insurance cover. Claims incurred, and the insurance company can be able to prove that when you are filling in your proposal form, you willfully did a misrepresentation or you withheld material facts or information that pertain your medical condition. So if you withhold any information, if you withhold any information when you're filling in the proposal form, we call that withholding of material facts or information or willful misrepresentation. So if the insurance company is able to prove that, then that cost is not going to be covered. For example, you know clearly you have a pre-existing condition or you have chronic conditions, and when you are filling in the proposal form, you choose not to declare that condition and you withhold those facts. Then after the cooling period of 30 days, you end up in a hospital being admitted, and clearly you knew. They can be able to prove that you have actually been on ongoing treatment for that condition. It is not going to be covered. So I really insist, when you're filling in the proposal form, please try to give all the material facts. Try to be honest when you're filling in the proposal form to avoid such instances. Most medical covers are not going to cover cosmetic or plastic surgery. They're not going to cover weight loss. They're not going to cover beauty treatment. So if you are probably feel like you need to improve your looks or the way you look, that is not going to be covered by your medical insurance. Alternative treatments like herbal treatments, the people who go for herbal treatment, acupuncture, chiropractors, all those, they're not going to be covered by the insurance medical cover. Participation in hazardous sports like mountaineering or zip lining, and you know clearly there are things that can happen when you're doing those dangerous sports that is not going to be covered, or engagement in hazardous activities or dangerous activities. For example, you are a participant, not you can be a victim of riot and strike. That is covered. But if you are an active participant of a riot and strike, that is not going to be covered by insurance cover. Intentional self-injury is not covered. Alcoholism is not covered. Drugs and substance abuse is not covered in most of the insurance cover. So again, depends on where you purchase your cover, but these are mostly exclusions in most covers. So in a nutshell, that is the medical cover, and I want to just make a conclusion here on the major items that you need to understand. So in the conclusion I mentioned, when you're filling in your proposal form, please ensure you have disclosed all the material facts. Avoid giving incorrect statements or misrepresentation when you are giving out your proposal form. Always ensure you have filled the proposal form yourself, the declarations or any connected documents, you have filled them yourself. premiums are usually paid upfront in full. This is different from the other policy. For example, for your car policy, the insurance company can give you up to 3 months to pay your premium. In most cases for medical covers, the premium is upfront. So you can start paying early, but once the cover can only start when you have fully paid. When you have fully paid your premium, the cover will not start. So if you are planning to take a medical cover, please plan yourself where you have your quotation, prepare that money before you book the cover. So again, always obtain the list of the panel of hospitals and specialists. It's very important. And also know which hospitals are going to charge copay and which hospitals are not going to charge copay. Carry your medical cards all the time. Look for somewhere to carry those cards. You need them at some point. For example, somebody has been in an accident, they need to go to hospital. But in nowadays, we have the smart, virtual cards where they are on your email, so you don't need to carry around your medical card. So in some companies, you're going to get virtual cards, which are very good because you don't need to carry the physical card all the time. But where your card is a physical card, ensure you have your card all the time. As I conclude, please always ensure you understand your sub-limit. If you are purchasing the cover for the first time, please ensure you understand your waiting periods. So in the next episode, I'll be looking at the WIBA policy and the employer's liability. So you are out there, you are an employer, you have employees, and anything can happen to them when they are working for you. So this is an act of parliament, so it can land you into problems with the government or from your employees. So you need to understand at what point do you require to purchase a WIBA policy, and also what is employer's liability, at what point can your employee sue you for negligence. So I'll be looking at that next weekend. So thank you very much for watching this webinar. And if you feel like you need some more clarification, you can reach out to me on 0782 37 17 87, or you can drop me an email on pulsepolicy101@gmail.com. So till Saturday, thank you very much for watching. Thank you so much. I hope you have gotten information. This is the last of the medical cover. I hope you have now informed when you are purchasing a medical cover. I hope you are now guided. You have a lot of information. And in case you need to get clarification, you can always reach out to me. So till next Saturday, keep warm in this cold weather. Let's look at the WIBA policies next weekend. Thank you very much and have a lovely weekend. Goodbye.